Good morning, everybody. That was not a hearty good morning. I need a hearty good morning. Good morning, everybody. There's a hearty good morning. Thank you. All right, well, once again, thank you, everybody, for coming out to 1 Million Cups on another fine Wednesday morning. I'm Mike Craig, here with my volunteer colleagues, George Brook, John McGovern, Melissa Roberts. Nate Olson is off in Houston today doing 1 Million Cups of business down in Houston, because, you know, we're going to make it all over the place. So what have I got this morning? The regular announcements. Don't talk in the back. Clean up after yourself. Okay, we got those out of the way. Yeah, exactly. So we're going to start this morning. Who likes free stuff? Everyone likes free stuff. So Cameron's going to tell us about free stuff.
All right, so unless you've been living under a rock for the past couple of months, you know that Big Kansas City is next week. Let's hear it. We're super excited to see inaugural year of Kansas City. This is the newest one in the big series, Big Omaha, Big Des Moines, and Big Kansas City. And we are super excited about it next Tuesday through Thursday here in Kansas City. So we are a big sponsor and are going to give away one ticket to one of you lucky people today. That also has to be in the Twitterverse, but that's a whole other story. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to give away a ticket to Big Kansas City. It's a huge value. But what we need you to do is we want you to tweet something to @BigKansasCity, #1MC. Here's the question we want you to answer. I'm excited to see blank @Big Kansas City 1MC. So if you forget, it's right here. And what we're looking for is a speaker, something that you're going to do, mainly a speaker. So take a look at the agenda, figure out which speaker you want to see, tweet at this, and at the end of the hour of 1 Million Cups, we will announce the winner. So just a reminder, I'm most excited to see blank @Big Kansas City, #1, don't spell it out, #1, 1MC. Thanks, everybody.
Wasn't that how the match game worked? All right, so our first presenter this morning. Oh, wait, who here likes music? Nearly everybody, except like one person right there doesn't like music. That's strange. All right, so nearly everybody likes music. Who likes going to musical events? Concerts and such? All right, well, you're in luck, because our first presenter this morning, Mr. Joe Lieberman with Fan Addict, is going to tell you how to stay connected with the music you love and help discover more. Please welcome Joe Lieberman.
Good morning, thanks for having me today. Fan Addict is the creation of something that I've been mulling over for a very long time. In fact, it's been a passion of mine since I was a very young kid. I have been going to see live events since I can remember. I think my first concert was at the age of 13. I saw Kiss and Cheap Trick together. It's in here. This is a scrapbook. I've been collecting memories since that time. And I have ticket stubs since the age of 18 in here. Maybe I might have lost a couple on the barroom floor, but from almost everything I can remember, they're in this scrapbook. And so one of the things that I've liked to do is look to see where my favorite bands are traveling around the globe. Because in Kansas City, we haven't always been the big draw that we've been. And if a band is coming from the UK and going to other cities, I wanted to know if they were traveling there. So in the 80s, I would be looking at the websites and looking at their tour information to see where they're coming. And this got to be a little bit of a problem for me as I collected more and more bands. Because, you know, if you have 30, 40 bands that you want to track, it's hard to see all their tour information, but I would do it religiously. And so the web came around, and it made things easier for me to do, of course. Programs like event listings would come on, And we've all seen these emails that would come through and they would say, here's who's coming to Kansas City. Well, that's great. But the problem with that is it's very city-centric. It only tells you who's coming to Kansas City in the next few weeks, 2 months. It doesn't tell you who's not coming to Kansas City that's on tour. It also doesn't tell you who are the people that you don't recognize that are on that event list. So the challenge continued for me to track the bands who ultimately might make it to Kansas City or might make it to Omaha or Toronto or wherever. And this is a screenshot from one of the pages here where in '09 I traveled to Toronto to see one of my favorite bands called the Doves. You should check them out. So I started noodling on this idea, how do I put together this application that would allow me to track all of the bands that I want to see across the globe and write notes and create my own personal music journal online or digitally, just as I've been doing it through my scrapbook for all these years. And I looked and I looked and I looked and I looked for applications and the event listings, and they all had what I called the city focus, and it missed what I was looking for. So ultimately I decided I got to build something for myself. I don't really care if anybody else wants it. And then I realized as I started going through all of the design implications, the database architecture, how you're going to get the data, et cetera, this was going to be a fairly involved project. So now it became a business. And what I did is I actually worked through all of the functionality specifications that I wanted to see on my application. Came up with the name Fan Addict, joined up with a good friend of mine who became my strategic partner in this, and we decided over actually several months, could we actually make money at this? Because it's a big space. There is admittedly a lot of complication. There's a lot of clutter. There's a lot of ways to find music and discover new bands, etc. But we thought we could take this both in a cost-effective manner and in a way that would create a niche for us that was unique from all the other players out there. So we took a stab at it. We put some money together and developed a great team with a good opportunity and a business model that I will talk about here in a second. I want to recognize some of the team members that are here today. If you would just stand up so you can see I'm not alone and by myself. It's always good to have friends. These people have been instrumental in helping us get to the place where we're at. So the concept here is it's a tool to allow you to track your bands as they travel around the globe and make it your own personal music journal. And by that I mean you can take photographs at events, you can take notes, you can take notes on band members. There will be all sorts of additional features that I will talk about in a second. Basic screenshot of artists that this particular user would track. The numbers in flames, that might be hard to see. That tells you how many concerts are coming that are in the database around the world. If it's orange, there's something there you haven't seen before. If there's a city icon to the left, that's a city that you're tracking that you would go travel to. Omaha, Chicago, whatever it might be. And then we've got this really unique feature here. It says feeds. It could also be a promo. This is where we're going to track the Twitter and Facebook feeds of the bands that we can get a hold of, and we're also going to allow bands, venues, promoters, etc., to use this tool as a promotional vehicle to make offers to their fans, exclusively to Fan Addict users. This is a cover of the website. The promotions vehicle is very important to us. It's one of the elements of the business model. Originally, when we were trying to come up with what is the reason people will get passionately behind this, I was all focused on if we can get bands to use this, then users will follow. And so I had this tagline in my head, it's the application bands prefer. And we did a user group with some folks that are connected here in the city to promotions and musical events, and they said, you're missing something. It needs to be more personal. It needs to be passionate. What about your story you just told? You know, your scrapbook. And I just brought that as an example of what I wanted to do up here. So what we decided to do, and I think very correctly, is make this about the user experience. Your own personal music journal. And if you can get connected to bands who use this and tweet and connect to you personally, how cool is that? At least for me, it's really neat to be able to see all the bands that I follow and on one page to see all of their feeds. So that's what we've tried to create. The data aspect of this is very difficult. There are APIs out there for us to get access to information around the globe. Some of it's protected, so we have to go at it from different routes. We're a Apple iTunes affiliate, so we can actually sell music through our application. And there's a lot of what we call non-ticketed events, and this is where users are, bands and venues are able to enter their own information into events that wouldn't be able for us to draw through these APIs. The business model, we break it into several segments. This is predictive. We're not quite into the beta stage yet, but we think this is where it will land. Ticket commissions. So if somebody buys through our application, we'll get a slice of the pie there. Commissions through songs. Revenues through promotions from bands, venues, and promoters. And once we have the users, the viewers, the eyeballs, obviously we'll get some advertising. And from that point forward, anything's possible. So where we're at right now is that we're in development. I have a demo. We were hoping we would be able to show it today. It's not quite perfect, so I'm not ready to release it, but if you want, I can show it to you on my phone, or our team members can do that, because it is, once you know where to press, it does work. But we're getting closer and closer, and we're hoping to have a beta here in the spring. That's version 1. Version 2, we're hoping to have something that's much more socially connected, where people are sharing their experiences, and then from there, we'll just keep on improving it based on user feedback. Another unique thing about this is that I really believe in community. I love what Million Cups of Coffee is doing. I try to get myself involved in the startup space whenever I can. And so I came up with this idea of creating a Kansas City Event Alliance that was all focused on community and events. And so we've been talking to some folks who are all involved in one way or another in promotion of local events. A lot of it has to do with music, and I slipped in one of my favorite bands, a shout out to Cowboy Indian Bear here locally. Essentially, this is an alliance where we're going to be promoting each other. We're not quite sure where it's going, but the concept is that we're all in the space. We're not very competitive to each other, but we believe that there's an opportunity here to bring event community support together. So that's what we're trying to do. That's about it. I know I'm going to be asked this question, so I've got the answer already. How can you guys help? There's 3 things. You can sign up on our website. You can follow us through Twitter, and you can help us connect. One of the things that we're trying to do here is meet with strategic partners, venues, production companies, people who are in the news, promotion end of the business. We already have some good connections. We would like more. It never surprises me how somebody will pop out of the woodwork and say, hey, I'm connected to this group or organization. So that would be wonderful if you guys would share that information with us. And that's it. I appreciate it very much, and I guess I take questions now. Right? Or not?
Microphones are up front. Come on up and ask a question.
Hi.
Hi, I'm going to stand on my tiptoes. So I'm, on May 9th, I'll be shaving my head to raise money for the American Cancer Society's Hope Lodge, and we are supposed to raise $5,000 toward that effort, and one of the things I'm looking at is having a benefit concert at a small venue. Is that one of the things that you think could fit within your model, is sort of these fundraiser concerts that different organizations host to have to raise money for their organizations?
Sure, it's a great question. One of the things that we want to do to differentiate our tool from the others that are out there is to really make it accessible for what we call festivals. Festivals are events that have more than a few artists. Some evenings out will include 40 minutes from 4 different bands, and I don't really consider that to be a festival. But ones that are maybe fundraising oriented and have several lineups, et cetera. So we're going to have a way specifically for people to sign up for that and actually show all the artists that are available and slotted for that particular festival. The question is there a revenue share opportunity here? And definitely there will be. If you're interested in that, we can talk about it.
I have a question. This is more around how you got to this point, but what were some of the, or what have been some of the challenges that you've run into with getting an app built? I know that there's probably a lot of people with ideas for, they have that app that they want to build. What did that look like for you, and what were the challenges getting to having something that sounds like you're about ready to release?
Yeah, there are lots of challenges. I could go on and on and on. There are lots of schools of thought on how to go native versus HTML5, and I'm not going to have that debate right now. Originally, we actually started down the path of going native. What I have seen happen over the last year is that Apple is no longer being as dominant as they were, and all other phones coming out are going to force us to have to build native for each of those different environments. So I had a young man, I don't see him here today, try and convince me way before I was educated that the way to go is HTML5, and then when you go out to each of these applications, you wrap it natively. And I was absolutely adamant against that because I knew that there would be some degradation in experience, et cetera. But he showed me what is currently available, and I've seen some examples of that. So I was convinced at that point that that was the way to go, build one set of software and then wrap it to go native into stores, or just make it a web application. So that's what we've done. The problems with that is that in the testing environment, you're only looking at it from a web mobile experience, and there's all sorts of goofy things that happen. So, and there are so many different devices out there, it's really hard to know if it's not working for my phone, is it working for everybody else? And of course, I'm the only customer that matters right now, and I'm driving my team crazy because I can't see it, but they can. It's that kind of stuff. It just takes a long time, and you got to be patient. I will.
This is weird just being this close to you.
I'll move back.
That's really, really cool. One thing I was thinking about as far as a user who might approach this, and someone especially who might be like insane about their bands, is I might want to like be able to take my experience elsewhere if this doesn't work out in a year or whatever, or or just maybe I want to share it more widely on some other service too. Are you going to think about, or how do you think about giving people the ability to take their data and their elsewhere afterwards, or their experiences that they've collected, just because I think that would build trust with someone if they knew, hey, I'll try this out for a while, I'll buy in, but I know I can always leave, and they probably won't, but
Yeah, that's a discussion we'll have at another time. I mean, right now what we want to do is create an environment that they don't want to leave. We do allow them to share their information out to the world on specific events. Right now, I would say I think I'm going to try and create a comprehensive environment that is a tool that gives them this safe place to create their own diary, if you will. We may think about that at another time, but I think that's the strategy.
Remind me again, I'm over here, sorry. Again. Remind me again, what are the different things that you could track? I know that you can track city,
But you can track band, correct? So
Yeah, you can.
like, or do you get push notifications against those things? You know, how does it inform me about what's going on so I can?
Sure. So there's three centricities here. There's city-centric, you know, all the different cities that you want to track. There's artist centricity, so you know what's going on. And then there's venue centricity. So depending on what you sign up for and what you want, you will get notifications from artists as they're traveling when there's new artists added. I think we will find out very quickly that people will not want to be notified every time there's a new show at a venue. It's just as easy to go there and look at their list. So probably the notifications will just be on artists.
Joe, if I had a band, like I just started one, if I had musical talent and I could start a band, how would I know that I was on Fat Addict as a band? How would I
Okay.
get the word out?
So we have a mechanism that goes out to these sources of data to look for new bands. Bands that have albums have IDs, they're called MBIDs. And so that's how we know if they're not in our database. But there's a problem because a lot of bands who are playing and have not released an album or for whatever reason aren't in the database, we're not going to know about. So if you're a band, you can easily find out. You'll be able to go to our website and search. If you're not in there, then we'll have a mechanism for you to be able to add it, and we'll have what we call a Fan Addict ID. One of the things we want to do here to help promote us and have a big splash in the Kansas City area, kind of use this as a model for how we would go forward, is to take one of these very large festivals. For example, and it may happen next year, but there's a big festival that happens in the spring here called the Middle of the Map, and they were on the screen up before. There's about 116 local bands, and I would guess that maybe 50 of those are not part of the master ID process. Well, we'll make sure that they're accommodated and they get into the band, and we're going to find out and allow them to enter in all of their event listing information so that it's ubiquitous, because we want the user to have a complete experience. So that's another challenge, but it's also an opportunity for any venue who's not using one of those ticketed services to add their information, and any band who finds that, hey, we're traveling and we want to promote to our users, we want to get it into the database. So this idea is that if we can get fans of certain bands to know that I'm always going to have a good experience knowing that all the data's there, they'll start discovering new bands, because we've got mechanisms to say who's similar to the bands that you're listening to, that are in town, that are in the cities that you want to listen to. So it should be a very comprehensive experience for those kinds of people.
Joe, as I recall, this isn't your first startup rodeo. Could you tell us a little bit about your experience in the past and how this has informed Fan Addict and maybe what you learned along the way? Kind of tell us a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey.
Sure. I'm a transplant from Canada. Got my accent all taken care of, except when I go back there, and then all of a sudden I'm in a boat. Moved to Michigan, got an engineering degree. In the 80s, interest rates were in the 20s, outrageous, and a bad recession. You think we had it bad recently. So I had one criteria for employment, and that is they offered me a job. So I got one down in this place called Gardner, working for United Telecom. And that turned into Sprint, and spent about 6 years there. It's great culture, corporate experience, and then I moved on to a telecom venture where I learned about small business, running a company that had 35 people across the country doing management of telecom services. Then a funny thing happened, because that was in the payphone industry. Funny thing happened along the way. This train came, and it was called cell phones, and it decimated what I was doing for a living. So I had to start something, and I was seeing that the web was starting to come around. And so while I was looking for a real job, I pretended that I could do websites. And I kept pretending, and then people kept on asking me to pretend. And so ultimately, I built this business called SpiderTel. And I had that from 96 until 2010. That's 15 years. And I had a lot of experience with that, as you can imagine. Grew it to about 14 people, had lots of ups and downs, and really learned what it was like to not be up sleepless, not knowing how to make payroll the next day, not taking my own salary for a while, going through incredible rides where I could finally go to Las Vegas for a weekend. So that was a great experience, and along the way, as the business model changed, I started to think, how would I do this over again? Anyways, I sold that in 2010, and since then I've been doing all sorts of crazy things, including this, and doing some consulting, mentoring to companies who are in the startup mode and need some help going through growth transitions. It's really informed me a lot. And another thing I'll mention is that I joined this amazing group that most of you, I guess, are familiar with, called the Hellsberg Entrepreneurial Mentoring Program, with this funny acronym called HEMP. I don't think they know the connection, but don't tell them that, because Barnett's really sensitive. And I got firsthand experience on what it's really like to have a mentor. It's kind of one of these things where I would be down in the dumps talking about how sad I was or upset about the certain circumstances that I had before me, and my mentor would say, calm down. You want to see a problem? Let me tell you about my problems. And it's like that scene from Jaws where they're bragging over the scars that they have. I could never outdo his scars. So what I learned is that there's always a way out, and if you plan it and you think through it well enough and you get a good team on the bus, which I have right now, that anything's possible. I also know that it takes way more than a great product and a great idea to make things happen. So I think we're very realistic about our success, and really are more passionate about the experience than we are about the business opportunity. At least I am. I don't think my team wants to hear that.
Mike, you going to give me a chance?
I will
do
give
have
you a
time?
chance, Nate.
That's a really quick one. So Joe, hi, I'm Nate. So first of all, it's really well designed. I don't know who in your brigade here is the designer, but really good work. So my question is, what keeps you up at night? What's the thing that's going to keep this from happening? What's sort of the biggest risk in your mind?
There are a lot of risks. Like, we're still in this stage of figuring out how, we know what the business model is. We're not quite sure about what the go-to market strategy is. So I mentioned the data problems. We want to have a lot of redundancy in our network because we don't want anybody to control our future. When we get to 1 million users, we can be a direct affiliate of Ticketmaster. So there's this whole stretch of getting to lots and lots of users that we have to get through to reduce a lot of risk. And along the way, then we've got to get a lot of users. How do we do that on limited funds to create not a viral experience, but a community experience? Because I really believe if people really want it, they'll share it, et cetera. Yeah, that's about it.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, a big round of applause for Joe Lieberman. Thank you very much, Joe.
Oh, one last thing. Thank you. If anybody would like to take a look at my scrapbook, it's up here. It will be guarded, but I love to share it, so you're welcome to do that.
All right. So as Candy Cam is getting set up, I'm going to have Nathan come up and make a quick announcement here. We've got a couple announcements.
So I'm Nathan Kurtz, this is Stu Ludlow, and we are with KC Roundtable, and we're putting on an event called Just for Starters. Just for Starters is an opportunity for people with new companies, new ideas, 6 months or less, or up to a year, to come and present to a panel of judges. We're holding it April 23rd at Boulevard. And do you want to give specifics on the...
Yeah, so we're looking for companies that haven't done a lot of the Kansas City entrepreneurial events, such as 1 Million Cups or Coffin Demo Days. So companies with who have been out at least or under 6 months of go live, So the events that, like Nathan said, the 23rd at the brewery, you can go to KC Roundtable to either get tickets to attend or apply to present.
What's great about it is we have a panel of judges who are going to give you feedback live. There's a live Twitter feed, so you'll get feedback from the audience too, so it's very participatory. This is our third one. We've done it 2 other times the last 3 years, and go to the website, kcroundtable.com, fill out an application, or sign up for a ticket. Thanks, guys.
Okay, as a reminder, don't forget about the tweets here for I'm most excited to see blank at Big Kansas City for an opportunity to win a free ticket to Big Kansas City next week. And along those lines, for those that put the dates together, it is happening on a Wednesday. We normally have this here on a Wednesday, and we are going to continue to have here 1 Million Cups happen here at Kaufman, same time, same place next week. But if you do have a ticket to Big Kansas City, you won't miss out on the presentations at 1 Million Cups because they're also going to be presenting yet again at Big Kansas City on the big stage in the afternoon shortly after lunch. So if you're getting tickets for the event, be sure to know that you're going to be able to see who's presenting next week, whether you're here or there. We have a few other announcements for City Camp KC, but I think we're going to hold off on that one because there are some dates issues there. So, I mean, look at this. This is a robot. Kind of, right? Okay, yeah. So I got a chance, Cody and I have had a number of conversations over the years. He's a designer, and us designers kind of stick together to some extent, yeah, because nobody else will stick with us. So when he told me he came onto this project, he said, hey, man, I joined this team, and we're making this wired robot that holds cameras. I thought he was crazy. And
kind of are.
Yeah.
We kind of are a little crazy.
That's awesome.
So.
But now, obviously, they have a product getting ready to come together, and it's very exciting. So I'm going to hand it over to him. Let's give him a welcome and get him started.
Thank you. So, yeah, Candy Cam. Being a video company, we thought we would kick things off true to form with a video. So here we go. My name is Cody Beasley. I'm a co-founder and the chief design officer at Candy Cam. 72 hours of video are uploaded to YouTube alone every single minute. The demand for high-quality video in concerts, classes, and weddings increase every single day. The capabilities of cameras are skyrocketing, and the price is plummeting. But the price of your equipment to position your camera has stayed exactly the same. It's still expensive, it's still heavy, it takes a whole crew to set up. Our first product, the Skyhook, replaces a whole truckload of positional equipment. It's a light, affordable, robotic camera platform that you can fly around with your iPad.
Our stabilized Skyhook platform can move freely to capture any shot. It can be programmed to perform complex camera movements over and over again. The Skyhook has an open access API, so you can program any Wi-Fi device to control it.
You wouldn't use a $250,000 stadium camera or a loud copter to film your wedding or a concert. With the Skyhook, you can make precise indoor videos for the cost of a good DSLR. My partners have created dozens of startups with hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue. We want to unlock your creativity, to film whatever you can imagine. We have the track record to deliver, and this product is our passion. These are some of the prototypes we've created. You can see a little progression there. So there you go. The first thing I wanted to say was thank you Million Cups for the stage. We've kind of been in stealth mode for a while, I suppose, and so this is our kind of foray, our hello to Kansas City. A lot of people have come by, shown interest, but we really wanted to do this in a formal way. So again, my name is Cody Beasley, as you saw from the video. I'm a founder and the chief design officer at Candy Cam. Again, going public event. Thanks for 1 Million Cups. And then I kind of wanted to tell you what we've been up to for the last year. So we started working on this problem early 2012. And we got through it and we said, hey, it might be a business idea here. So we decided to make a company, actually incorporated in 2012. To date, we've raised about $200,000 and we're currently in another $500,000 round. We have 16 folks on staff, many of which are here. Most of them are actually engineers. And then, of course, you saw some of the video prototypes. I believe we're on number 7 right now. So yeah. And then just to tell you, we are delivering or at least shipping our beta units in May, and then we're looking at production units in December. So I know a lot of you were expecting, or at least unfortunately we aren't flying, but don't fear, we're going to have an open house next Wednesday from 4 to 8 p.m., so just drop by our headquarters and you can see the thing flying around. And if Wednesday doesn't work for you, just call us up. We're flying almost daily, so you'll be able to check that out whenever you want. And there you go. So my name, Cody Beasley, that's my personal Twitter. And then our Twitter for the company, the website, phone number, and then other open house information if you want. You can come up, see the prototype, and I suppose, yeah, I'll take questions. This is Jeff, our managing partner. He will be assisting, I assume.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
I've been over to your space, and it's super cool. And one of the cool things that I think that you're using, and this is a pretty new technology, is seeing you guys using things like 3D printing. And obviously, it's a team full of engineers, but as much as possible, bring it down to our level and talk a little bit about the technology that you're using to actually build the product.
Yeah, so one of the fun things about the company is we pretty much do everything in-house. So everything from the software engineering to the actual, like you said, we have a 3D printer, so we use that to make prototype parts. They're actually fairly rigid. We use them in a lot of what we're doing for the gimbal and the platform. These sides are actually 3D printed too. So, I mean, circuit board design, all that we really do. So we like to stay cutting edge on stuff. So yeah, we have all kinds of fun toys to help us do what we really want to do, I suppose, and we don't have to do a lot of outsourcing for it. So yeah.
Hey Cody, I think the question also was what technology. Did I get that right? So you couldn't do this without modern electronic gyroscopes. This thing in the end will have 9 to 11 processors based on what its configuration is. Every motor has its own microcontroller. Keeping track of accelerations, doing stabilization fly-by-wire. It kind of reminds me of modern airplanes. If you have an F-22 or an F-16, if the computers die, it falls out of the sky. It is naturally unstable. To make this thing stable so that the camera is always focused on you, and that's what you can do. You can tell it from the iPad, focus on his face, and as you move around, it always stays on his face and knows relative to the platform and the gimbal, which is the bottom assembly, how to keep stable. So, it's modern multiple processors is what makes this doable, and lots of ring gyros, accelerometers, and magnometers. Meaning, and by the way, an iPhone has all those things. So thank the iPhone for the ability to do this.
Yeah.
So I've been watching you guys the last few months, so a lot of this isn't new to me, but some people in back are constantly talking about, well, what do they need the money for? What's the business model? How much is it going to cost? Things like that. And they're the ones with the deep pockets in back. So maybe you should talk a little bit about that.
We have Cody. We don't need deep pockets.
All right. So the actual cost of the unit's going to be somewhere in the $4,000 to $6,000 range. So that's what the unit cost is from a retail thing. From the business model, I mean, I suppose it's just selling the units. I mean, there's not a lot.
Well. Okay, so I think, Chris, your question. Gee,
Exactly.
I wonder why they always send these questions to me. There's a couple of us would be very happy to stop funding this and to take additional help from outside. The business model is very simple. This unit sells for, let's call it $4,000. The model is if we're selling 10 a month, at twice our staff size, we can break even at approximately 10 units a month. We have every reason to believe that's there. We think we have easily a 40 $20 to $40 million business with not a whole lot of sweat based on the available market. Remember, there's 20,000 high schools in America, and every one of those high schools has a gym. Every one of those high schools has a theater. That's not looking at the corporate marketplace or the place we're really initially focused, which is kind of that professional, what we call the prosumer videographer. So there seems to be a large available market. The current business models, we're doing a $500,000 private placement round, which should get us through production, certainly with our ability to fund inventory and production. My partner and I there's 4 or 5 of us that really founded the business. My principal partner is Ed Kleban, and we've done together 3 or 4 startups. I have 9 behind me. So have raised a couple bucks, growing some businesses, have about 1,500 people in Kansas City been employed at one of our businesses. So we're pretty comfortable. We know how to grow the business and to take it. This is kind of a fun project. I don't know, does that answer your question, Chris? Yeah, for the most part. I was just giving the average. And I always appreciate the setup questions. I owe you.
My question, it's not really a question, I guess, as much for you guys. I got a little robot builder at home, he's 9. And do you guys do anything with Link, the local investment commission, with any of the after-school programs? I know they got a grant from 4-H last year to start a robotics class. He's in that. We just had a couple of high school level kids compete in the robotics competition here. Do you guys do anything with those kids? Because right now they're building things out of wire and Legos, but I don't think they have a concept of what robotics can do.
Right now I feel like we have a business full of 20 children, so to take on more might be a little too much right now.
We actually have Legos ourselves. We're still in that cycle.
It's, coming to work, I don't know what outfits are going to show up, pirate outfits. There's seems to be a Spider-Man bath towel thing. No, we haven't done anything today, and I'm sure that we will long term. I just recently just got engaged with a family that has a 17-year-old involved in robotics in the local high school, and I was really kind of amazed talking through the conversation with her. Are you using Arduinos? Are you using C++? All that. So, you think 9's interesting. Wait till they get a little older. It's amazing how sophisticated they get. I'll tell you one of the fascinating things that happened for us, and this gimbal is an off-the-shelf one, and then in the next unit we'll have our own design, and we've to whoever's point, we've 3D printed it and a bunch of other things. We have the person who's done most of that design for us is a 17-year-old high school student, just happened to win the SolidWorks national competition for high school, so he can out-design most of us. But he's come in and done almost all of that mechanical design. So I'm really amazed. I'm not sure. I think that's just
just the way things are now.
The way things are. Yeah. I've become the old man overnight. How'd that happen?
So talk a little bit about I know you brushed over it a little bit, but there's units out there that do things like this.
Yeah.
We've seen them. If you're watching NFL, you're watching the flyover cameras in the stadiums. Talk about how this is different, and the difference in cost, I guess, is a big piece of that.
Yeah, so from what we understand about the stadium cams, they take a whole team of folks to set up. They have big trucks and winches and millions of dollars for insurance purposes to set it up per game. It's quite an unruly kind of situation in that. I think there's more tech in our product, but really it's focused to filmmakers. So while those are great for big stadium kind of situations, and the stability of those cameras are shaky at best in some of the situations. They work around those things. This is really made as a precision tool for filmmakers in indoor situations. So it's made to create films from a cinematic perspective. It's used for DSLRs, small gray, like either your phone, GoPro, that kind of thing. So this is really more of a consumer-based project with professional uses as well, but it's geared towards the filmmaker crowd.
It's $500,000 versus $4,000. That's the simple.
That too.
and the big units require, they were designed 18 years ago because they just went off patent just this last year. They wouldn't sell them. The minimum price was $250,000. It required 4 days of setup and 9 people. So if you ever wondered why, for example, when you go to a Chiefs game, it's only once every 2 years. Now, hopefully, if the Chiefs win a little more, this will happen more often. But once every 2 years, you'll see they put the stadium cam up. Normally, they don't. That's why. It's just prohibitively expensive, even for an NFL team.
Yep.
What we can do that's different. And by the way, there's a truck effectively on every corner because that's counterweighted. They have to fly a 400-pound device. We're a 20-pound device. By the way, the multiples are really simple. Even at 20 pounds, the string tension goes to 200 pounds when you're 1 foot from the ceiling. Mm-hmm. So people often ask us, how high of a building, or how high of a room? An 8-foot room, you can easily fly up to 1 foot of the ceiling, so 7 foot. After that, strings want to break. And so in a stadium application, when you have large spans, we're talking about aircraft cables that have to take multiple tons, primarily because you're flying a 400-pound payload, so it becomes 4,000 pounds as you approach the upper limit, asymptotic to the parallel plane. I shouldn't have said it that way. Anyway. Oops. Did I answer your question? Okay.
There seems to be a lot of very specific technical, engineering.
Yeah.
How have you been able to find the right people in this city?
Well, honestly, it comes out of necessity. Filmmakers have been, they've been looking for a solution like this for a long time. Oh, the employees. Yeah, there's a lot of talent in Kansas City. A lot of these folks don't know they're talented. So things like Hammer Space, there's different makers groups. You end up finding these individuals through similar means. They're friends of friends. They're friends of family. We usually have a pretty good radius of folks that we know, kind of a couple degrees of separation. So that's largely how we've gotten our talent pool so far. But we're also looking for opportunities, or at least we're finding talented individuals who are coming to us and things like that. We're always open to those kinds of things. So I guess so far it's been, we know someone who knows someone, but obviously we're open to any possibility.
Wouldn't you want to work at a place with Cody? Come on. I mean, we've been really fortunate, Ed and I, like I've said, we've employed probably 1,500 engineers in town. And with stock options, a lot of people have done very well. So, you certainly have developed a reputation. We're a fun place. We work really hard at being fun. We're a growing place. So we know, for example, the reason that we do this is less about raising money and it's more about getting the word out so that we can hire people. So candidly, that's why we're here.
Yep.
We know that the biggest asset we have is people. It's it. It's the David Packard line. Your assets go home. The difference with the computer business is your assets go home and sleep in their own beds every night, right?
I actually did get the opportunity to work with Cody once, and I don't know how we got anything done, actually.
That's our thought,
true.
too.
So you guys have mentioned both insurance and strings breaking. What do you guys know about your liability to personal and property damage and also your customers' liability?
How come, Cody, you look at me?
How convenient.
We have 9 patents in process, and one of them is the way that we handle detecting line breakage. We force you to change your lines. With the next unit, literally the next unit after this, we're going to double lines, a 4-line system, so that if a line breaks, there is a backup line, and then what'd I say?
You said 4.
Oh, 8 lines, yeah.
Yeah.
There's 4 lines now. We're going to 8 lines. And then that's the 9th patent is how we're managing those 9th lines. We're adding them for stability. But to be honest with you, it's more of a perception of, as much as it is more safe, it is also the perception of safety.
Sure.
So liabilities, of course, there's always liabilities with any product. My gosh, I come from the biomedical field. Man, they would sue you over everything.
Yep.
If you're an insurance agent, you certainly want our liability policy. I'm sure it will be a handsome premium. But I think we're going to handle it pretty safely. We're only flying in smaller rooms. This would be a room that we could fly in. With double lines, if one breaks, then the unit immediately detects it and then goes to a safe space and drops. Part of this happened, I don't know if anyone saw this, but in one of the major bowl games this year, one of the sky cams broke a cable and fell on a football player. It was really interesting. And then the funny part was, as they tried to take it up, it started to take out the football players as they dragged it across the field. And for some reason, that was the day that at least my personal epiphany of going to 8 lines came about, where you just kind of said, okay, Lord, I'm going to take this as a message. Let's go to 8 lines.
Because I know you guys are also asking your customer to hook this thing into the wall or whatever the method is, and so that, of course, you just sort of design it so that there's less chance of failure, but especially filmmakers, deadlines are coming up, they got to return their equipment, they haven't slept, all kinds of user error could cause all kinds of dangerous things.
It's certainly one of the liabilities. I mean, I would say it's probably the greatest liability of this business is how do you train the users, work with them. I mean, if this was easy, it's the old chimps would do it kind of thing. But it's like a room like this. I mean, I haven't really thought about this room, but you'd be tempted, just like we do in our shop, you'd be tempted to hang it off of these poles. You'd figure out a way to probably hook into the corners of where these air vents are. Remember, you're only pulling in the very center of the room a maximum of 200 pounds. Per line. In most cases, it's significantly lower than that. If it's higher, if you can get higher, then those lines are going to be 40 pounds of tension. And then we also have to come up with creative ways to give people toolkits. They either come with the product or you buy extra that hook into things.
Yeah, so we have a couple different mounting options. I think we use ratchet straps for personal or for permanent installations. You could hook into the wall or.
And that's only for dynamic applications, meaning that. If you're in a room like this, and our argument would be that long term, if this was the venue that is, for example, hosting people like we're doing right now, or events like this, that wasn't very good English. If in doing events like this, you would probably want to deploy one of these things permanently here. So it would be hooked in, and then, it has a base that's charging it, and then it comes out of its base, and anyone can use it. Right?
All right, that's all the ball busting I have. I think it's a really cool idea. I'm really proud that you guys are doing it here in Kansas City. Thank you.
Thank you.
Where did the name Candy Cam come from?
Cody must answer that.
All right, so the name Candy Cam was engineered, shockingly. And really the idea of Candy Cam was I started with, say, eye candy, candy and cam. Both of those are easy to say, they're easy to spell. It's two-syllabic, it's easy, it rolls off your tongue. I mean, there's a lot of different psychological reasons that I went over. Plus, it's just fun. It's got, everyone likes candy. Everyone has that kind of, sweet feel to it. So that's really what Candy Cam came out of. It came out easy, and it has kind of almost a physical feel to it. So.
Years ago, when Notre Dame didn't have lights in their stadium, this company came in and they brought in portable lighting. Can you imagine if you had poles that extended by themselves? I've figured you probably thought of this, but there is actually a company that makes those poles that go up automatically and has all your wiring and everything that you could hook into. Just a thought.
Yeah, we're not the smartest people in the world by a long shot, but Cody is, but I'm not. Yeah, that'd be interesting to get that name from you. We've talked about, it's real funny, I've yet to meet an intelligent person that doesn't think of a new application or a new angle for this that we haven't. Every time we talk to somebody, they go, oh my gosh, we could put this at my kids' Bumblebee soccer games and I'll put paint pulls up and I'd love to have something like this. Can you imagine my 8-year-old running down the field and I'm doing this over her head? I've yet to sit in a meeting with anybody and they don't teach me something about our product. It hasn't happened yet.
I think we prefer the swag delivery system, where you use it in concerts and then it delivers fun, things, just pours over the crowd. That's my favorite use so far.
Yeah, Cody wants to take it. Cody wants to take it to every bar in Kansas City. I think there might be alternate purposes here.
Okay, so last question. Two-part question. One is the one that we always ask. Obviously you're looking to build your team, but is there anything else? This is kind of the first. You guys haven't really been running under the radar yet. I think everybody's been talking about you. What is it that we can do as a community to support you? And then secondly, what are your next steps? What are, you talked about, I think December was going to actually be production. Is there any connections that you need to make before then?
Yeah, so the big one is I just want to reach out to the video community here in Kansas City. I think we need feedback on a constant basis to develop this product into something that everyone loves. So I think the big one is reaching out to people who make video for a living, people who have great ideas. It's intelligent people. It's people who shoot all day long. So that's the big one is we just need to access the community. And we're already doing a lot of that, but now things like this gives us the exposure to access more people so that we can build this together. The other piece of that, where the company is going to next, you want to get in on that?
Oh, I love hearing you, Cody.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, obviously, we're a partnering business. So somebody came to us this week, and it's like going into production. You can't buy domestic motors anymore, so we have to source those in China. There's no, we're making PC boards. We have to build inventory. Obviously, we're in the capital raising business. There's mezzanine financing associated with building, a capital product. Social media has become very, vogue these days, and I get that. We are not a social media business. We have social elements, so we have to make real hardware with real poles or whatever it might be. So it's a partnering business, and you partner by being in business in places like this and start talking to people. Somebody comes to you and says, "Have you thought of, having a pole like this?" Or what about, are you looking for investors? I'm a banker. I'm do unusual mezzanine round funding for these sort of things. Those are the help we need. Obviously, we're employing people. We're growing, I don't know, a person every 2 weeks. So we're in the business of hiring people. They haven't fired me yet. They'll have to replace me someday soon. So, yeah. Does that answer your question?
Absolutely. We're really excited here in Kansas City, and this is a really exciting time. Let's give them a round of applause. Thanks, guys. Okay, we have a couple few, whatever that means. We have a few announcements just to wrap it up, and Rick Usher's going to kick us off there.
Hi, I'm Rick Usher with the City Manager's Office, and next week the FCC is having their first Gigabit City Challenge workshop, and I'll be attending. It's a Wednesday, and I'd like to use digital engagement to show what we're doing in Kansas City. So send a tweet about it. Maybe we'll use the 1 million cups, the 1MC hashtag, or an FCC KC, but I know you'll all be at what's happening, Big KC and Big Kansas City and Million Cups, but any support you can send that way. What we're talking about are how we've used our infrastructure assets to attract Google Fiber and to build these networks. And you may have seen the article in Slate, too really cool but really unnecessary. I'm trying to make the point that it doesn't matter if you build a app that runs on a gigabit, it's the capacity. I don't really need a 200 amp electric service at my house, so some information along those lines would be useful at this conference. But showing that Kansas City is really engaged, as this group has been for the last year, I think will be important.
Thank you. And then Cameron.
Back with more. Sorry, guys. First off, wanted to announce that we talked about this in the past, that Brad Feld, the venture capitalist, founder of Techstars, author of Startup Communities, a book many of you guys have read, has bought a house in the Startup Village and is taking applications now for startups who want to live there rent-free under sort of Brad's mentorship with their startup. We extended the application deadline by a few days to accommodate the Hacking the Gigabit City event, which is this weekend. So let me also give a plug for that. I think we're at capacity now for actually joining the event. We could still take a few more. And if I would have been really prepared, I would have written the Eventbrite up there. Will, do you know it offhand? There you go, hackingthegigabitcity.eventbrite.com. But we extended the deadline to Monday. But we wanted to get some more applications in and just make sure you guys knew about this. It's a super cool opportunity. Now, that being said, obviously we want a lot of Kansas City companies to apply, but I'm guessing most of you in this room already have a place to live in Kansas City. So be sure and share this with the people who aren't from Kansas City and would like to come here and take advantage of Google Fiber and get to live rent-free in the Startup Village, which we think would be really cool. So please share this with your networks and tweet it out to other entrepreneurs that you know of. Johnny Cott is handing out flyers with the URL on them, etc. Okay, now the moment you've all been waiting for. Who's going to Big Kansas City? Okay, very good. But who won the free ticket today by tweeting the question to us? Okay, can I get a drum roll, please? Very good. You guys have seen Christmas Vacation. All right, so the winner of the Big Kansas City ticket is, wait a minute, we're going to use paper here at 1 Million Cops. Chosen by the lovely Brittany Massio at Silicon Prairie News. Lewisburg native Will Barkus. Come on down.
One last thing real quick. Raise your hand if this is your first time come this week. Awesome. That's amazing. And just as a count, we had 231 people here this week, so we're really excited about that. We hope to see all of you either here or at Big Kansas City next week. Thanks.